Hey everybody, how y'all doing? Let's see who all we got here. Let's see, we got Bearcat, Cat, Modding, Southpaw. How you doing, bud? Candy, D Trip, Mama. Uh, Ranger, Kills, Outlaw, and everybody else that ain't started typing in the chat yet. Come on, guys. Uh, and Sharon. Hey, Sharon. She's my favorite Floridian. So, tonight's topic is going to be the Tropical Storm Bret update, as well as we're going to talk a little bit about 93L. It's probably not going to be a very long stream. I am uploading the VODs not only on Twitch, but also on my YouTube channel. In case you don't get to watch all of it. There you can see at the bottom of the screen on the news ticker, 45 mile per hour wind, same thing as this morning. Pressure hasn't changed at 1,006 millibars, and it's moving west at 18 mile per hour. Modding, since I don't move locations, really I don't think there's a reason for it. I never really thought about it. I'm kind of waiting for some more people to show up here. But yeah, nothing's changed since this morning as far as Bret. 93L is expected to form something, so we'll see. Yeah, it's going to move due west. Matter of fact, there is some tropical storm watches out on a couple of the islands. Yeah, Florida, they've been getting a lot of rain down there. Several warnings. They're actually marine warnings. Let's get over to the main screen. And you can see we got a severe watch up here, north, South Dakota, northwest Nebraska. I haven't heard from Nathan, but I think he went live storm chasing. He's probably going to go play with a little bit. I got to mute that one. Hang on. See what Nathan's up to. He's driving after something over here on monitor 6. But I haven't heard from him. See, High Plains Magic is David Baxter's title on his stream. So, let's wait a couple more minutes. I want to show you guys something. By the way, if you're new here, be sure and hit the notification button and follow me as I not only do the storm chasing behind the scenes, but also the tropical weather. And so I'm reading Nathan's chat just to see what's going on over yonder. I'll raid you over to him when I get done. But waiting a little bit longer. We got 45 people I'm showing. So something I want to show you guys. This was actually funny. Talking about Saturday at the drag race. I had so many people staring at me and doing double takes, and I couldn't figure out why. I got to take my headphones off for this, so hang on. There you go. That's what I was wearing. People thought I was an old NASCAR race car driver, Richard Petty. They were doing double takes. Let me get my headphones back on. I didn't have my big belt buckle on though. uh, I have gotten that quite a few times, and I wouldn't pay any attention at the racetrack, watching everything else that's going on, and but I kept noticing these people, mostly girls, doing double takes and staring at me. It's like, no. I actually had an old man come up and ask me if I was somebody famous, and it's like, not really. So yeah, he's quite a bit older than me. I'm only 66. So anyway, let's get started here. I lost a bunch of people for some reason. So gosh, mention Richard Petty and people start leaving. What the hell's up with that? So let's get over to monitor 6. And here's Bret. There you can see 45 mile per hour winds, 1,006 millibars. Now last night it was 40 and 1,008. Now I seen some clickbait on YouTube earlier. Bret strengthening. Well, it only got to 45 mile per hour instead of 40 last night. I'm a Twitch superstar. I don't even know about that, to tell you the truth. And it's moving west at 18 miles per hour. It's going to head right towards the islands. Here's 93L. Look at this thing. In the next 2 days, it's got a 70% chance of formation. So, and there's the cone for 93L. There's something else coming off of Africa too. I'll have to keep an eye on. This is crazy for this time of year. But yeah, 80% chance in the next 7 days. Also, we got a little something that might happen over here. It's only got a 30% in 7-day forecast formation, and I'm going to show you why. They're thinking the same thing that I am. Bret might have an influence on this. Yeah, I've been doing some watching and checking in on that sub that disappeared. There's very little Sahara dust right now. It's out there. There's a lot of Saharan air over here on the main screen. We'll go water vapor. Here it is. That's a Saharan air layer, but there's not a whole lot of dust in it. And one of the reasons why, I'm going to come back to the studio. One of the reasons why is last night I talked about that weak high pressure system out there in the Atlantic, the Bermuda High. Normally, when we're going into El Nino, that high pressure is really strong. Hey, big boss, how you doing, bud? And it stirs up the water, and the colder waters rise. What they call upwelling. Well, we got a weak high pressure system, so it's not really bringing a lot of that Saharan dust out in the Saharan air layer, but it's there, and it does have some influence on what's going on, but everything's firing up down south of it, across the southern part of the main development region. So the Saharan dust, I'll do this in red, is mainly up in this area where all of our storms are fired up to the south of it. So this is Bret. This is 93L. And look at this big old bad boy coming off the coast of Africa. There is kind of a tropical wave right there, but I don't think that's got much of a chance right now. But this big old puppy coming off the west coast of Africa, I'll have to keep an eye on that. So we'll see what happens. So look at all these dots on here. This is the different models. Now, These up here, and this is different. This is 93L, this is 93L, and this is 93L. These are three different models, the green and the red and the blue up in this area. This is where one model has got a getting to be 105 knot or a Cat 3 hurricane. It's the HWFI model. It's a little aggressive. I don't think it's going to go right over Cuba like it's showing. It could, but I don't think. All the other models and the different ensembles has Bret, which is this line of dots here, all going clear over here in the Western Caribbean. Why is that significant? Because if things change, this could turn this way. But so far, all the way out to 10 days on the GFS, it's not going to do that. And I'm going to show you the model here in a little bit, what this puppy does when it gets over here. So let's come back over here to monitor 6. Here you can see the visible satellite. This is Bret right here. This is 93L. And you can see where these lines, this is from Bret and 93L, where they came from. But here is this big old bad thing we got to keep an eye on. It could do a little something. So Bret right now, it's just a tropical wave at this point. It's just a disturbance. But I want to show you this. Now, last night I did mention that there was a possibility before it got to the islands over here, where Guadalupe, Barbados, St. John's, and that, they were showing yesterday that it very well could go Cat 1 or Cat 2 hurricane on the models. Well, a lot of things changed, and like I said last night, they had not flown into Bret yet with the hurricane hunters until earlier today. And with the information that they found out, as you can see over here, it's going to be, this S stands for tropical storm. So it could get up to 65 mile per hour winds right in here, which would be day after tomorrow. And that's this line right here, right before it gets to the islands, and 65 mile per hour forecast here. Now I have to zoom in real tight on this, but see these yellow lines here? That's a tropical storm watch. That's Barbados right there. Over here you got St. Lucie Island, and then Martinique. They've extended this just from 20 minutes ago. In Dominica. So all those yellow lines there is a tropical storm watch right now. So let's take a look at the models. Well, first off, let's look at the infrared. And you can see why it got a little bit stronger. And look at the spin in the black and gray. Those are really tall tops that are spinning, but the low is not there. That's not where the low pressure is. It's actually on the south side of that. So let's see here. Let me pause this. And I'll grab the pen. The low pressure system, I got to get a different color. The low pressure system is actually about right in this area, right here. So got a lot of convection going on around it. But it's not slated to get any stronger. So let's look at the forecast model. And this is really interesting, guys. First off, I got to change regions. Let's look at Western Atlantic. This is Bret over here. This is the Leeward Windward Islands right there, which I'd love to visit someday. But I'm going to look at 5,000 feet vorticity, or spin in the atmosphere. So here comes Bret. Right there, it's about at his strongest point, but look how small that circle is. And when I do a sounding, whoops, wrong button. What I'm looking for is these wind barbs. This area right here for wind direction and strength. You could see they're coming out of the east, going west down here at the surface, and then they change a little bit southeast or southwest. I mean, but then they get kind of all lava-jawed up in the upper atmosphere, and really what's happening there is it's tilted. It's not directly upper level, and lower level is not over top of one another. It's actually offset, just like I explained last night, and that helps to, evaluate its strength, and it's going to stay weak. Now, if it would have turned north, it would have got a lot stronger. But watch what happens here. This is interesting. Now, here comes 93L back over to the right. But watch this. It's weakening down. It's turning into a tropical depression. Where does it go? Right across Central America, and influenced by this pressure system, and boom, it blows up right there. So I think that's part between this one and this one is the reason why the Eastern Pacific has got a possible chance in the next 7 days of something forming. We'll have to keep an eye on that. Now, the Euro doesn't show this. We'll back this up. Switch to the Euro model. Now, the Euro model does show it a little bit stronger. It's a little bit bigger around, but it basically goes this exact same direction over here to South America, and this is a separate entity that's spinning the atmosphere that's trying to blow up. But the Euro has Bret totally dying out when it hits Central America. We don't have that gyre, the Central American gyre, that's really influencing stuff right now. So I thought that was pretty interesting to take a look at. So that's basically it. I mean, a 30-minute show. Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's a real short show. But 2 hurricane hunters did go out there today. And once that information got put into the models, then things changed. And that's exactly what I said was going to happen last night, is things were going to change. Now, as far as 93L, it's going to turn and to the north. And the models don't go out far enough to see exactly what's going to happen with that. So we'll have to keep a close eye on 93L. Again, there's that high pressure system up there. Are these storms will affect El Nino conditions? No, not at all. The warm waters in the Atlantic is really unusual, especially this time of year. Since we are in El Nino, but we're in a weak El Nino at this stage. But the East Pacific is really warm, and almost all the Atlantic is really warm. Is the reason why these storms are forming. Plus low upper level shear. A month ago, when I was checking the shear, we had a southwest to northeast upper level winds, and the trade winds were going from east to west. So there was a lot of shear action going on there. Yeah, I think so. If the Atlantic stays warm, the way it is, I mean, it's well above 80 plus temperatures, well above average for this time of year, and definitely well above average for going into El Nino. So yes, it's a very good possibility that we are going to have an active Atlantic season as well as an active East Pacific. So it's been quite a few years since we had something like this happen. So it's rare as can be to have East Pacific and Atlantic all way above average temperatures. Typically, the Gulf, Western Caribbean, the Gulf, and just a few has popped up on the east side of Florida. That's our main development region for this time of year. These storms forming this early is rare, but it's them forming this early. The conditions isn't quite right for hurricane formation. So that's because it's early in the year. Now you get into August, September, October, these storms would have been gangbusters by now. So, and definitely, when we get into those months is when we could see major hurricane development. But, well, I should say about the middle of July on. So, yeah, there's hardly any shear. That Bermuda high is weak. It's not stirring up the Atlantic to make the cooler waters down deep come up to the top. So there's plenty of fuel there. Weak shear, great for development. So I'm not going to go too far out on a limb, but I will say I do believe we're going to have some major activity, at least in the early half of the year. And then we'll see as we get into a stronger El Nino in the East Pacific, because the models and all the forecasts are showing we are going to go into a very strong El Nino. Once that happens, I do believe the Atlantic will start to get cut off and cool down. So, and maybe even get some stronger shear. But no, these storms aren't affecting hardly anything. Now, one thing that you might have noticed when I was showing you Hurricane Center is 93L's code is basically going right where Bret did. Now, that kind of hurts 93L in a way if it follows the same path, because Bret's already started sucking up some of that warm water, so there could be a little bit of cooler waters that is ahead of 93L. But 93L is, as Bret goes west, 93L is supposed to curve, so it'll stay in some warmer waters supposedly. No, not really. We've had all kinds of storms coming off of Africa. That happens year round. It does get stronger this time of year, but yeah, I've been watching, a couple months ago that there's still some pretty strong tropical waves coming off. But in the past months, especially in May, April and May, there was so much wind shear in the upper levels going, like I said, southwest and northeast, they couldn't develop. They was getting sheared off. So now that's not the case. When I look up at the upper level wind profiles, it's a weak shear happening right now. So we'll see. We'll see. I mean, several different forecast organizations, including the Colorado State University, is predicting a little bit above average for tropical storms. And the Weather Channel is like, they're kind of like real in between NOAA and Colorado State. And so we'll have to see, but we're going to have an average to above average season this year instead of below average, which we'll probably get next year since we'll still be in El Nino. But then the Pacific turns on, and then we got stuff I got to watch going for Hawaii or coming up the coast. We had some last year that went up to San Diego as a weak tropical storm, but it brought much needed rain to the Southern California desert area. Also, sometimes we'll have situations in the East Pacific. They'll come up the Mexican coast, curve in. Of course, they die out, but they bring a lot of rain up into New Mexico and Arizona. The monsoonal forecast for Arizona this year sucks. I mean, it's going to be dry. So we'll have to wait and see what the East Pacific can do to help that out. So, any more questions? I got a video from Saturday I forgot to show you guys. This might turn out to be loud. And it's loud on the video for good reason. These are 220 mile per hour outlaw supermods. I'll try to watch the meter. Whoops. I was on the wrong monitor. Hang on. I forgot I moved that over to the other monitor earlier when I was working. So let's get to the main screen. That's my grandson filming. Little shaky camera. He's clear up at the top of the grandstand. When they get lined up, we had to put fingers in our ears. Oh my God. So, that was fun. They had several of those guys. They did 200 mile an hour half track. If they could have run the full quarter mile, they would have been over 220. And it was loud. I mean, even with our fingers in our ears, it was still loud. And the whole grandstand shook. Almost like ground pounders. So anyway, thanks for any subs, direct donations, any bits that I did not see. Greatly appreciate it. Helps me to keep all this running. I'm going to make this short and sweet, and we're going to raid Nathan. Let me get it here. Let me get it ready. So you know what we always say here. Peace. Pop a top for me. And I'll catch you on tomorrow's broadcast.